afternoon, America. That's my Good Morning Vietnam reference. Welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, talking Leagues Cup. Logan. How are you today, Logan?
Don't ever do that again.
I know I probably broke your ears. I'm
That was
sorry.
terrifying. You know what, Jordan? I was thinking about this, and I don't know if you're guilty of this because I know you record video as well, but I've been recording a lot of TikToks for my Disney and Universal stuff, and we have what's called the millennial pause. Do you know what that is? Do you know what the millennial pause is?
Yeah, I apparently had a very the way I edited one of my videos for the Marvel pod, Ron said I had a gigantic millennial pause. It's because I didn't cut right after the end of the 30-second countdown. I left it a couple seconds in there, and yeah, it did look like I was just sitting there like, all right, waiting for it to go. But right, the millennial pause is like when you press
Yeah.
record and you take a moment and then say it, because we're
Right.
used to, I don't know if people know this, but back in the day, my
Mhm.
friend and I used to make these videos on YouTube, and it was on like these cassette tapes that we had to do,
Yep.
and then transfer it over to the internet and all that kind of stuff. And there, if you pressed record, it sometimes did take a second for it to really
Yeah.
go. And if you started saying something right as soon as you pushed record, it would not catch it. So we kind of have that part left over from us.
Yeah, I guess I never realized it until, I mean, this was back when I was teaching probably my final year. I would film TikToks and stuff, and they were like, why do you guys pause like that?" And I said, "Well, even on cell phones back in the day, when you
Hmm.
hit record, it was like it took it a minute to go, oh, we're recording something, and then it would start. Um, and I think we just got so used to that. I mean, it becomes like it was like Pavlov that had the when you hear the bell and you
Yeah,
eat or
Pavlov.
whatever it was,
Well,
and it's kind of like that.
it's also stuff that can just be fixed in editing. There's no
Yeah,
problem having a millennial
right.
pause. Like, you just fix that in editing, and then there's no
Yeah,
pause.
right.
I'd rather do that than like cut off the first syllable of what I'm saying,
Yeah,
because it's not loading right.
right.
And especially with how finicky StreamYard is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
sometimes once we're done the countdown, it's like, all right, gotta take a second here and make sure everything's going good.
Yep.
We're talking Leagues Cup, as it is already winding down. We have 2 weeks left or so. We are in the round of 16, which kicks off tonight, the night we're recording this at 10:30 p.m. And I think if I have to have my biggest complaint about Leagues Cup, Logan, other than the group stage being 3 teams in each group, my next biggest one would be, what the hell are we doing with the schedule? Um,
Yeah.
we have one game tonight, one, and then the rest of the
Mhm.
round of 16 is tomorrow, with 4 games going on at the same time. 2 at 7:30, 2 at 8 o'clock. And I know these are weeknights, so that's not an issue. But here, that's an issue. But Saturday, we didn't have any games until like 7:30 at night on a Saturday. Why weren't we starting games at 1 o'clock and having the whole day, so that way we could watch all of the games? Instead, I had to pick which game I want to watch. Guess which one I watched? The one that featured my team in it. So I didn't even get to see some of the other teams play on Saturday night, because you're like, oh, I'm obviously going to watch the one that affects me the most, right? I don't understand what we're doing.
Well, that just sounds like MLS propaganda that you're just spewing out of the mouth. No,
Tack.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you, Jordan. And it's not like the Mexican clubs and MLS clubs are playing other games simultaneously. They've both paused their season. This makes no sense to me, especially when you get in a round of 32, when you're now on level ground with everybody, and you're not having to worry about group stage games. So,
And
yeah,
yeah, I know people. Somebody I did see tweet this was like, bring back Saturday afternoon games, and we do occasionally have them during the season.
yeah, but
I'm actually fine with the regular season doing this at 7:30 for everybody's kickoff.
yeah.
But when it's a cup tournament that you're trying to market as like the World Cup of Liga Mekis and MLS clubs, you should own that day. It was a Saturday. Be putting games on from 1 o'clock to 12 a.m. Pacific,
Mhm.
12 a.m. Eastern time, and like, you know what I'm saying, like, you can have games going that whole day instead of, I think we had, how many did we have all on Saturday? And they were all, like, a lot of them were at the same time. Saturday, or was it Friday? No, Friday, and then Saturday. Well, I guess it was Friday. Was it a Friday? I thought it was Saturday we had games going. Friday, it's a
Mm.
little bit more understandable, I guess. But then why didn't we have any of those games on Saturday?
Yeah, especially because American sports are they found a perfect window to not collide with other sports. There's no
Yeah,
other, like, besides the Olympics, but that's every 4 years. It's not going to do that all the time. It's literally the best time to do it. Baseball is a drag at this point, and it's like once August hits, then it starts to get a little bit more interesting, I guess, with baseball. But I mean,
everybody's
July and August are
everybody's just
brutal,
playing NCAA football right now.
right?
That's all they're doing.
And
Uh,
watching random preseason NFL games that don't even matter anymore.
yeah,
So
so I was wrong. Everything was on Friday, but that's my point, right? We had
yeah,
a couple games on Thursday,
move
a
them to
couple games on
Saturday.
Wednesday, and then it's like the boatload of them on Friday. Why not space them out a little bit so some were on Saturday?
Yeah.
Then you could, I don't know. This is all my schedule's all off. I have no clue what day is what anymore right now because I'm working from home and because I have a newborn. So it's like, sorry if I, if you were screaming at your car radio saying it was all on Friday, not Saturday. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Jordan doesn't even know what day of the week it is at this point.
But my point even stands for now. We have one game today and the rest tomorrow. We couldn't have a couple of these at 7 o'clock today, like a
Yeah.
7:30, an 8:30, and a 10:30 today. We have one today, and then everybody else is at 7:30 and 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock and 10:30 tomorrow. We have four games at the same time tomorrow. Two at 7:30, two at 8. Then we have three games on at 10 and 10:30. We're only going to be able to watch one. I shouldn't have to bust out the multi-screen to watch all of these knockout stage games like that. I don't know. I don't remember last year being like this, but I'm probably wrong. But I don't remember. I feel like last year was spaced out better. Like I felt like I got to see more of these knockouts.
Yeah, I from what I remember, yeah, I remember seeing a lot of them. So I don't I you're right. Like it is confusing to me, and they'll say, "Well, I mean, Apple TV has like the whip around. That's why like you can do it." But I'm like, I'd much rather be able to watch full games of, full matches of this tournament, not 10 seconds here, 20 seconds there, a minute there. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah. So then I guess the next games after this are going to be on the weekend for the quarterfinals. Semifinals will probably be midweek again, and then the final is on Sunday the 25th. Yeah, so the semifinals are on the 21st. Semifinals on the 21st. That's Wednesday of next week. So that means this weekend should be the quarters. And the final is Sunday the 25th. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, okay, yeah, we'll watch the one tonight as best as I can. It's at 10:30. And then look, Columbus Miami is a fun matchup. Cincy Philly is a fun matchup. We're screwed. You have to watch one or the other or pull up a second screen. I understand it more during regular league play because during the league we have so many games that don't really matter. I'm sorry, we're kind of at a point right now where because of how many teams they let in, there are games during the summer that mean absolutely nothing for most of the teams. It might mean something to the fringe playoff teams because they'll end up missing the playoffs by a point or two. But for everybody else that week, you're like, oh yeah, like we're fine, and that's fine. It's like, okay, I don't have to watch a random matchup of Chicago Fire and Sporting Kansas City on a July, summer day when I can pick Columbus Miami. Now, Columbus Miami and Cincy Philadelphia are really two matchups, and I have to pick which one I'm going to watch. or I have to bust out the second screen. And when this is a cup tournament, the World Cup usually lets you watch, except for the third knockout stage games, the third group stage games where they take place at the same time. The World Cup lets you watch all the group games. I mean, they're like, yeah, go ahead and watch it. The Euros let you watch all of those games, every single game, unless the Fox sells it to Fubo. Um, these it's like we have to pick, and part of it is because we're doing it during. I thought their whole point was to try to have games almost every night, remember? And then now it's like
Yeah.
this year they're like, oh, we're only having them on these certain days, I guess.
Yeah, because I can remember Don Garber said that was part of the partnership and relationship with Liga MX and Leagues Cup was that he would like to get the football on most nights, so that way he could
And
that
they
way
did
we
during
could
the
enjoy
group.
it.
Like the group had mostly games on every night, right?
Yeah,
But I don't know. I don't like the way they're handling the knockout. I have to double check this now. I have to check last year's Leagues Cup and see if I'm completely wrong. And it, you know, Leagues Cup also started um, earlier last year. Okay, so the round of 16 and a round of 32 last year. Okay, yeah, the round of 32 had mostly games on August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and they seemed almost pretty well split between the dates. The round of 16 were August 6th, 7th, and 8th, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 games on August 8th, 2 on the 7th, and 1 on the 6th. So kind of similar to how this year is. The quarterfinals were all August 11th. The semifinals were all August 15th. Obviously, those, though, I think had different kickoff times. And then the final on August 19th. So, what time were some of these kickoffs? I guess it doesn't show me. I don't know. It just feels different this year.
I also remember last year. Just maybe that's why it felt that way because it felt like every game I was watching Messi.
Well, the
But
round of 16, like I said last year, was on 3 different dates, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th.
yeah,
This year, it's just 2 dates. Today with 1 game and the rest tomorrow. So we are right in that regard, at least. We
right.
got to watch more last year. Because that's frustrating. That's frustrating. Like, obviously, those are 2 of the matches I would want to watch. And I will probably pull up the second screen tomorrow, whatever, and watch them. It's just, I won't be able to have my focus fully on one of them. And Columbus, Miami is a really good matchup. But of course, as a Philly fan, I'm going to be drawn to Cincy, Philadelphia, where my eye is going to be most of the time.
Yeah.
Other matchups we have. So, okay, so today is Seattle and Pumas. By the time you're listening to this, that game's over. Seattle moved on. You're welcome. And if they didn't move on, that just aged horribly there. Okay. Tomorrow is Cincy, Philly, Columbus, Miami, Cruz Azul, Mazatlan, Tigres, NYCFC, Toluca, Colorado. That sounds like I'm saying a place. Toluca, Colorado.
Yeah, you never
America,
been to
St.
Cuba.
Louis, and LAFC, San Jose. So what just happened this last knockout stage here? We had St. Louis somehow beat Portland 3-1. Portland had been flying high. Club America beat Atlas 2-1. Toluca beat Houston on penalty kicks 2-2, and then 5-4 on penalties. Colorado beat Juarez 3-2. Seattle beat LA Galaxy 3-1. That game, Seattle had that pretty quickly, 3-0, and not much of a battle. Pumas beat Vancouver 2-0. San Jose beat Nakasa 5-0. So, geez, just goes to show you how bad Nakasa is, I guess, right? LAFC beats Austin 2-0. Austin's ride has ended in the League's Cup, and everybody's back to wolf out. Cincy beat Santos on penalty kicks 6-5. Philly beat Montreal 2-0. Ty Baribo continues his hot scoring form. Mazatlan beats DC United 2-1. Orlando lose to Cruz Azul on penalty kicks 5-4. Tigres beat Pachuca 1-0. NYCFC beat the Revs on penalty kicks 7-6. Miami beats Toronto 4-3 in what was a crazy matchup. Red cards, goals. It was amazing. Columbus beat SKC 4-0. I think we kind of joked about how, all right, SKC got Columbus. See you later, SKC. And that turned out to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So here's how the rest of it's going to go. I'm going to share my little screen here, and we're going to look at the rest of the knockout stage and kind of see, Logan, I'm going to ask you some questions on
Yeah.
how well of a chance does MLS have to be reigning champions of Leagues Cup? Okay, so we have Club America and St. Louis. The winner of that will face Toluca and Colorado's winner. So there's a chance for an all MLS matchup. There's a chance for an all Liga Mekis matchup. And then there's, of course, a chance for America or a Liga Mekis team versus a MLS team. We have Seattle Pumas. And then the winner of that will face LAFC San Jose. So we already know an MLS team is getting into the quarters. No problem there because of LAFC San Jose. Then we have Cincy and Philly. Of course, that means we have another MLS team in the quarterfinals. So that's 2 out of 8 spots so far. It's guaranteed. Cruz Azul and Mazatlan are going to face the winner of Philly and Cincinnati. And then Tigres NYCFC versus Columbus, Miami's winner. So that means another team, 3 out of the 8 spots in the quarterfinals are guaranteed to be MLS clubs. That's almost half, just guaranteed. And then if those teams are lucky enough to win against the Liga Mekis matchup, then you're upping your chance here. We have one guaranteed spot for Liga Mekis in the quarterfinals. That's the Cruz Azul Mazatlan matchup. Okay, so far I feel pretty good about odds for MLS clubs winning this thing. But when we look at the teams that are still alive in this, we have St. Louis, who have not been great in the league, right? We have Colorado, who's kind of been better, definitely better than last year, right? They've taken a step up. Seattle's been hot going into the tournament. They've been good in the tournament. We have LAFC and San Jose. LAFC, obviously, the class of the West, we would mostly agree there. San Jose, look, San Jose is not moving on, okay? And then you have Columbus and Miami, both 2 really strong East Coast teams, along with Cincy and Philly. Philly on a downturn, Cincy, of course, in a hunt for a supporter shield. And then NYCFC, who have been good this year. Not great, but good. They're in 5th place. So out of the quality of candidates left for MLS to win Leagues Cup, how are you feeling if you had to put it on like a 1 to 10? What's your vibes of an MLS winner for this year?
I'm feeling really good by the fact that these teams will host, because I would say, Jordan, that a majority, I'm going to go with all of these teams. Yeah, I'm going to go with all the teams, Jordan, that will host will present a problem at their house. And I say that because St. Louis is a really tough place to win. Club America did not look good. They looked like a team that had a couple weeks off. They kind of built into the match. I thought St. Louis was really impressive against a Portland team, Jordan, that's had really good moments this season. And after Bradley Carnell is fired, it looks like St. Louis has kind of used this as their bounce back. And I've just been really impressed with the way that they've played. I think they're getting goals from a lot of different places in the league, Leagues Cup, that is. And I feel good because I feel like if I'm looking at the rest of the teams, I mean, maybe aside from NYCFC, I feel like St. Louis is the one I'd be most concerned about playing Club America because they're so good. I
Yeah,
think they'll
yeah.
put up a good fight. It's in St. Louis. That place will be electric. Um, I just I wonder what can Club America do against a St. Louis team that usually defends pretty well. Um, or sorry, it's not in St. Louis. It's in Dignity. I had to look that up. I wanted to make sure because it's like for some reason I thought they all the U.S. teams were hosting no matter where it was. Yeah, so I mean I guess they're playing L.A. It kind of shifts things.
Yeah, they changed it this year
Yeah,
for I think because Club America was the number 1 seed for Liga MX, they got the rights to
yeah,
that. Um, yeah, look, if I'm looking at it, I'd probably say there's like I'll give us a 6 out of 10, 60% chance of
that's what I was gonna go with. Yeah,
MLS winning. I have Club America beating St. Louis. I would have Colorado beating Toluca. We have Seattle. I'm going to say Seattle beats Pumas. I already said that earlier. LAFC beating San Jose. So that leaves you with Seattle, LAFC, Club America, Colorado. So you have Club America versus LAFC, toss up for the final, I think, out of those. Okay. On the east side of the bracket, we would have Cincy Philly. I have Cincy winning. I have Cruz Azul winning. I have Cruz Azul beating Cincy. Boom. That's semifinals. I would have Tigres beating NYCFC. I would have probably, I think Columbus Miami is a toss up. So let's just say Miami. And then let's say Miami versus Tigres. I go Tigres, Tigres versus Cruz Azul, Tigres versus Club America or LAFC. Oh, so maybe lower than 60% if I'm just looking at this. I don't know. I'm kind of worried now. Just
well,
going
I
through.
will say Tigres has not been the same the last couple of years.
That's what they want
Uh,
you to think. That's what they want you to think,
yeah,
and then they win.
I could see NYCFC bouncing them out.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody can truly win these games except for, sorry, St. Louis Club America.
Yeah, sorry, I gave you so much hope because you were in St. Louis, but you're not in St. Louis. But
Yeah,
should have probably checked that before I just
we're
started
not in
spewing.
St. Louis anymore.
But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think I would have the same exact teams on the left hand side. On the right hand side, I would give Philly a fighting chance. I don't know if they can win at TQL.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game. I just have
Yeah,
Cincy edging them out.
yeah. I would agree. Cruz Azul wins against Mazatlan.
Yeah.
I actually would think NYCFC beats Tigres.
Okay.
Um,
That'd be good because then that's all MLS
yeah.
quarterfinal.
Well,
That
besides Cruz
guarantees a
Azul.
team into a semifinal. Then if it's NYCFC, Columbus, Miami, you know.
Yeah, but Cruz Azul, right?
Yeah, no, I'm saying a guaranteed MLS into
Yeah,
the
yeah.
semis because you'd
I
have
got you. Yep.
NYCFC beating Tigres and then them facing Columbus or Miami.
Yeah. I mean, I think on the east side, I would not be shocked if it ends
And
up
Cruz
being
Azul, like, I'm kind of going off name here more because they did not really look good
no, they
against
were
Philly,
not good against Orlando.
and they were not good against Orlando, and they were not good. They were not good this whole thing. So, uh, look, I could be just we could see Cruz Azul get bounced by Cincy, which could happen. And then you have Cincy versus Tigres or Cincy versus Columbus or Miami, and then yeah, then you're a little bit more gold at. So I'll stick with my 60% chance of MLS repeating. What's your
Um,
hold on real quick? Odds on Miami repeating out of 10. 100%. Like how good of a chance does Miami have to win it again?
this is gonna be like a really harsh take.
Yeah.
Zero. I think Columbus beats them. So I no chance because Columbus has been playing so well, and they've got new players, new blood in. Um,
Mhm.
we haven't even talked about Juwan Jones going over there, but
Yeah.
like this team, man, they're just stacked. I'm gonna go zero. I don't think a Miami without Messi really stands much of a chance against Columbus.
I'll give them 30% chance repeat. How about that?
It's nice of you.
I don't know. They were able to get through Toronto. That Toronto is a tough matchup. I just think they're kind of like whatever about Leagues Cup right now, and they're going to focus on getting that supporter shield making MLS Cup deep run. I don't think they need a
Getting
repeat of
people
Leagues Cup.
healthy.
Yeah, I don't think they need a repeat of it. So you're right. Like I think Columbus, this could be something for them because they just won
Mhm.
MLS Cup, and they're
They're
it's a
surging in
different
MLS.
tournament. They're like, yeah, let's go win this thing.
Jordan, so I got a question for you. Playing on the Columbus side of things, if Columbus wins League's Cup, are they the team taking this momentum out of it? Are they the team to beat for this year's MLS Cup?
No, I think
LAFC?
you'll kind of see. Yeah, LAFC is I think gonna be one of the teams to beat here, though they haven't been super um convincing, right? Like I still don't think they've been super convincing. They've had some weird losses and stuff like that. So for me, I think it's truly up in the air. But Columbus can get hot at the right time and win it all again this year.
Yeah.
But I do think if they make the Leagues Cup final, that might zap some stuff out of them a bit, where maybe they don't have the momentum carry into the rest of the way, because you still have a bit, right? You'll still have 9 or 10 leagues games that you have to get through
Mm-hmm.
before you even get to the MLS playoffs.
They've actually played less MLS games than any MLS team, I believe.
Oh, so they'll have to make up the time.
Mm-hmm.
They've played 23. Yeah. So they'll have 11
They
games
got a
left.
they got a rough stretch. Listen to this: at Philadelphia, against
Okay, 3 points.
NYCFC, against Seattle, at Cincinnati, at Toronto, against Orlando, at DC, against Miami, against Philly, against New England, and then at Red Bull. I mean, those are good teams that are all playoff hunt teams. So
Most of the league is playoff.
not DFC or not DC. Although
Not
DC might be rolling on a high, man. They might be like, all right, we could do this.
Look, this is how bad
Yeah.
the bottom of the East is.
Yeah.
New England's bottom, they're 5 points off of Atlanta in 9th place because of the wild card spots. Now, if you remove the 2 wild card spots,
That's
New
a
England is
massive
then
difference.
11 points off, and it is a lot more tougher to get to. The wild card is really hurting. It's kind of like, I don't know. Like we don't have the player movement the way that, Major League Baseball does, but Major League Baseball has kind of done the same thing. They expanded their playoffs
Keeps everybody
and
in the race. Yeah.
keeps everybody in the race. And what they're finding now, right, is I know the Orioles general manager has talked about maybe the possibility of MLB having to push back the trade window, right, the trade deadline, because it keeps everybody in, and then they don't get those big blockbuster trades anymore
Right.
because those teams are all trying to buy and instead of sell. So if you push it back a few weeks, then you kind of get back to where you were when you had less teams in the playoffs. Now, they don't really have to worry about that here, but what you worry about with this is those summer nights, tell me more, when
You was gonna say you break out the song.
yeah, when you have all of these teams who are technically still in it, and some of those games don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
Look, as bad as New England were starting it off, they are still in the hunt. Baseball is still a little different, right? Chicago White Sox, not even close to in the hunt. They're eliminated right now, okay?
Yeah, they're the
done.
worst team in the history of the league.
And that's with the added playoff spots there. But, soccer is always a little different because it is hard to score. It is hard to get those 3 points. So a lot of those teams are hanging around now, and it's making some of those summer nights not be as it keeps more teams in it, which I guess is the whole goal, right? Because they're like, oh, more people will be watching. But sometimes people will just get okay, call me in September or October when, call me in October. Wake me up when September ends and we're getting ready to start the
Great
playoffs.
song, by the way.
and we're getting ready to start the playoffs. And let me know, you know, let's get it down to the final things now.
The final
Because
countdown.
there we go. We're just dropping
Boom.
song titles.
We're rock stars, baby.
Um, because look, Miami's into the playoffs, right? They're not going to drop out of that. They're actually so far ahead right now on. They're 4 points up on the supporter shield even, and they have a game in hand of that. We're not having like a particularly close time with any of that stuff, so it will be interesting having Columbus come out of Leagues Cup. They're 10 points back of the top of the East. They have 2 games in hand. Can they make a run, or will they be satisfied? Let's say if they win the whole thing, like that's all kind of stuff of. We'll see how it goes. I just wish that maybe we got to cut down the teams in the playoffs again, especially if you're having the Leagues Cup in the middle. It gives those teams that were originally needing to keep people interested during those summer days, keeps them interested in this competition now instead, maybe. Or, sometimes looking at attendance, maybe it doesn't keep them interested.
Right. Yeah, I just you're right though. Like this is a something coming to a head right here. I think with MLS is that because and players across the board, Jordan, Euros, Olympics, which I think is why Olympics went the kind of route that they've gone, um, with schedule congestion, right? Fixture congestion. It's become a big topic of conversation in Europe, but we really not had that here in the US because MLS didn't really have that problem because their guys weren't really playing in the Euros. They weren't playing in Copa. They weren't making the World Cup rosters typically. But now, as this league has gotten better, I think now we're presented and Don Garber, with some of the great things he's done, I think is also learning a quick lesson here of like this league's growth and this league's expansion. Um, is one instrumental to getting these guys some rest, but also I think instrumental in the fact that he's got to somehow figure out how MLS fits in the world. And I think maybe that's a whole that might be an off season. Write that down, Jordan. That might be an off season episode where we talk about where does MLS fit in all of this in the grand scheme of things. Where do they fit? Because we have quite uh, a different, like I guess, talent level. We got quite a different schedule. We don't really fit. We fit with Liga Mekis. That's why we combine on these things. But across the globe, we're one of the only leagues playing at this time of year. So it's very interesting. I'm fascinated by all of it, and I think Leagues Cup, like you said, I mean, the league's going to struggle because of it. Um, I don't know how many teams are really in the expansion plans. It seems like we've got an infinite amount of teams they're starting to consider. I mean, Jordan, we're going to start encroaching on 40 teams. It almost seems. So I don't know. This is going to get really interesting real soon, and I just don't know how MLS goes forward with all of this stuff.
Yeah, it's like I didn't even mean to take us down this road, but it is
No,
it's
but it's an
it's
interesting
one of those
topic.
things. I mean, look, we've seen that the attendance hasn't been there this year for the Leagues Cup the way it was last year, right? How long do you give it to have this tournament mean something? I, I don't think it's just the boycott for Open Cup either. I do think there is this barrier between the casual fans that have no clue how to handle that soccer has midseason tournaments because they didn't show up for Open Cup, they didn't show up for Leagues Cup. They just show up for league games, right? That's like all they do, and a lot of times because those are the ones on weekends.
And Champions Cups, they'll show up for Champions Cup
Barely.
because it's early. Well, earlier. Well, I think it's because it's early and people are excited, right? People are excited to see their team for the year, and I think you get a higher tick up in attend. It's not great, but you do get a higher tick in attendance. But also, you got to consider is, I mean, and I know there's been a lot of discourse on Twitter about this, but the Mexican teams and the Mexican fans show up, man, and they've been a staple for a lot of people that have come to the United States. Like, there's a lot of people in the U.S. that watch Liga MX. So, because it was the go-to league, it was the best league. But now MLS has a similar product and an easier access, and it's safer environments in some of these stadiums. Like MLS presents a very difficult challenge for Liga MX, but also world soccer. I mean, MLS is it's an interesting dynamic because I think a lot of players, Jordan, would come here if Saudi wasn't around because they know there's probably more money in advertisement and sponsorships, and I think that's what MLS looked at, right? Is this is part of why they linked up with Liga MX because the sponsorship money, they probably wouldn't get as much sponsorship money if it
The
was they were playing the Canadian
the
teams.
fans of Liga MX teams show up.
Yes. Yeah.
When you see them have friendlies over here and constantly sell out Mexico
Yeah.
national team and these Mexican teams, MLS looked at that and said, "Why don't we partner with that and get that here?" And Liga MX is looking the same way. They're like, "Hey, look at them. They don't have Pro Rel. They got rid of their Pro Rel, and they're like, look at that. Let's hitch our wagon to them, right? And we have a lot of fans in America because of the way that the border is, right? That it's a country that's right next door, and a lot of them, a lot of people that were fans of Liga MX team moved to America for what they perceive as a better opportunity, or just moving to a different country,
Yeah.
and they pass their fandom down. And then because MLS sometimes wasn't even around for some of the times that these people have left their country, right? Like
Yeah.
MLS started in '96. There are people that have immigrated to here that were here before MLS started, and they're like, well, I'm going to keep following Club America, and they pass that down to their kid. And yeah, they might also have an MLS team that they watch, and it's like, oh, now I can go watch them, take on Club America or whatever, and it becomes, this cool thing. I do think maybe the novelty of this is starting to wear off, though, and I don't, I kind of said that with the All Star game, right? Like when they announced we're back to Liga MX All Stars versus MLS All Stars, I was like, okay, we're doing this again.
Yeah.
We had moved on from it last year and did Arsenal again, and then we come back to it, and you're like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The there is an issue fundamentally with, I think, the American sports fan and how many competitions soccer has. Um, we'll see if that changes as they continue to, uh, let's say, add this type of stuff into
Mhm.
our leagues. Logan, NBA had
Yeah.
an in-season tournament
Yeah.
last year, which is the equivalent to, if you want to say Leagues Cup or FA Cup, Open Cup, whatever you want to say. So with that, like, does that change, you know, the perception of, oh, they have other tournaments in here? I mean, look, when you became a fan, we had to tell you about all these tournaments that happen. And I remember when I became a fan, I'm like reading synopses on Wikipedia, like, okay, so the FA Cup is
Yeah.
this, and the
Yep.
Carling Cup is this, and the Community Shield is this, and this is
Yeah.
and like you're putting all these pieces together. The
Yeah.
casual fans that go and take their family to these games just show up to the league's games that are on the website, and they don't look out for, like, oh, there's an Open Cup, or oh, there's a Leagues Cup. And that is something that they have to fix if they want this to take off, because at this point I'm thinking Leagues Cup maybe has 5 years. If these attendance numbers continue, they probably only have 5 years before both say, you know what, we're actually not making as much as we thought.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, and I know this has turned into a longer, but I think it's more about it is it's weird how this all plays out, and like you said, I think the other thing too is like what kind of building on what you said, um, before MLS really existed, or before I became an MLS fan, and probably a lot of other people, they had Liga MX and they watched Premier League. And Premier League, your teams are in FA Cup, like you said. They've got Community Shields, they've got Euros, they've got Champions League, and then they've got Euros, they've got Olympic qualifiers. There's so much, and every single league and tournament is different and weird, and they pull teams from different directions, and they got different point systems. Like we are, like if the casual European fan starts watching Leagues Cup, Jordan, and in a group game they draw and it's 2 points, and because of penalties, they're like, what do you mean 2 points? Like what is that? And so again, it's and that's just soccer, right? Where there's not really that much of a difference in other sports across the other countries as much as there is this, because yes, the rules are different in some countries, but the game ends up being about the same. Where it's like, okay, there's not that many competitions. I mean, it just feels like soccer. We're constantly like, okay, what's the next one? Why are we playing in this? How did we get here? Especially Champions Cup. It doesn't make any sense how some teams qualify now. It's just really strange.
Just wait until Club World Cup happens, right?
Right. Yep.
That'll really
Yep.
confuse people because I remember people telling me like people asking me like when it comes to World Cup and they're like, oh, so is Manchester United in the World Cup? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. Well, guess what? They might be in the Club World Cup, and then that'll really confuse them. Then they're like, so where's USA in this Club World Cup? And you're
Right.
like, well, Seattle's in it or
Yeah.
whatever. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
That'll be another layer confused. But you're right too. Leagues Cup has this whole different rule set too. So you
Hmm.
go to the game and you're like, oh, we can't even get a point from a draw. Like we can if we lose the shootout, but we get 2 points if we win the shootout, and then we get 3 points if we win the game.
Right.
It's a lot to throw at people, and the casuals just don't understand any of this stuff.
Right.
And it's not for lack of trying. They go out. I remember being at games at Philly or whatever and DC where they're like, come Saturday or come Tuesday when we have our CONCACAF Champions quarterfinal. And guess what? People hear that in the stadium. They have no clue what that means. They're like, hey, come when we have our Open Cup semifinal against the Chicago Fire. I've been in the stadium with those announcements. Guess what? I go to that
Yeah.
game and half the people are there.
Right. Right. And you get stuck with these tournaments because of American sports, especially in the fall. You can't do these in the fall because football, it'll smash in that rating. I would say even in March they struggle because of March. Like America has so many sports televised where other countries don't, that are national and worldwide as well. I mean, there's just so many complexities and different layers to this, Jordan. And we could probably do a whole 3-hour episode on why U.S. soccer has barriers.
This would be a great one for a guest. If we can
Yeah,
get a guest on an episode like that, where we're just kind
yeah,
of looking at, all right, how do we? Because U.S. soccer is in just a very interesting position going into the World Cup, but also when you look at MLS, right? Because you have the hybrid nature of it, where we're like, oh, we're kind of like the NFL with soccer, but also we're trying to be like England and have cup competitions, and we're trying to be like Europe and have a Champions League, and it's like cool, but like,
yeah,
does that really mesh having so many different types of styles, right?
yeah. So definitely a future episode, I think, and we could really. I mean, I feel like always talking U.S. soccer just in general as MLS and U.S. men's national team, just kind of the barriers that we face that other countries just really don't. Like, and that's the other thing that's funny because other countries will go,
Mhm.
What do you mean? No, like I'm like, no, we have legit barriers that have caused like college soccer,
Travel.
like yeah,
We
travel,
have the travel issue. You're right. College soccer
right,
issue.
right,
College athletics is a huge thing in America
yes,
that doesn't exist overseas, right? Like that is
yes,
a
and
totally
now
different
with
thing.
right, and with all the NIA money and all the money that the kids can make on their likeness for basketball games coming up soon, and or sorry, college football games that already exist. These kids are making where there's never going to be money in college soccer. So that's added another barrier. I mean, there's just so many like high school, you can go straight from high school into MLB. Like there's just so many difficult things with soccer and how expensive soccer is in this country. We don't even talk about youth soccer side. It's very expensive to play for these
Still
clubs.
cheaper than
So
like travel baseball and
yeah,
stuff,
and
though. I mean,
golf and
like,
stuff, but
yeah,
but still, it's things that like the other countries have academies, and
yeah,
those kids are
and they're
paid to go to
cheaper.
those
Yeah,
academy.
it's not pay to play and all that. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, very interesting. As you can see, there's not much to talk about this week. So
no.
we've kind of went off on our own little tangent there. Olivier Giroud might actually debut Tuesday. Is a little thing there. Montreal traded Rwanda FC Dallas. Ruan's on like what his fifth MLS club.
Yeah, in like the last few years.
Chicago Fire sporting director George Heights is departing the club. Those are like the big stories that have happened.
Could you say he got fired?
I don't know.
No,
You know,
like
that's
he was on the fire, so he
no, I get
fired.
it, but I'm
Okay,
wondering.
okay,
I had to
okay.
look if he is. All right,
He
so
probably just went out.
it sounds like he is leaving, but I didn't know if maybe they had to phrase it that way so it doesn't have an awful headline of Chicago
Yeah.
fire their GM, or like it's like what?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to think about that.
Yeah.
So those are the big stories. I think the window for transfers is closing this week for MLS
Hmm.
because there's talk of maybe Griezmann coming in before the close of it, but I don't know how likely that is. I'll say not likely. But he's somebody that's always mentioned to be on the precipice of joining Major League Soccer. Yeah, so hey, send us your feedback. Send us your thoughts on what exactly is holding back American soccer, and maybe not even just. I really want to get into the whole like casual side of it. Like, why can't the casuals understand that there's multiple tournaments? Why is that too tough to understand? Because I feel like some casual soccer fans that watch the EPL will understand it, right? Though I think there are some that only watch the Premier League and do not interact with Champions League and FA Cup and stuff. So I don't know. Just really curious on why that is such a barrier for a lot of this stuff. As somebody that I became a fan and I dove all the way into this stuff, and I've been to Open Cup games, I've gone to Champions League games, I've gone to, you know, almost every type of cup competition that we've had. Uh, and I follow that stuff around. I watch them and all that kind of stuff. I became a hardcore fan when I wasn't before. And I'm wondering why some can't flip that switch, right? Like, I wonder if this would be the same issue if, let's say, MLB decided to start another in season tournament like the NBA. Would that also create where some of the fans that show up on a Friday night at Camden Yards say, I'm not going to that game. I have no clue what that is. Or if it's just this random hold up with soccer for whatever reason, or because it is kind of like a unique sport in that regard. How many cups and competitions there are.
Yeah, so if you're out there and you're listening and you're a casual fan and you're just maybe getting into
Yeah,
MLS, or
I was gonna say
let us
casual fans
know. We
usually
can
probably
get
not
you.
listening to this,
Yeah, we
but
can
if you
get you
have
on here.
like, yeah, if you have like let's say you're the hardcore fan and your dad, your brother, your friend is the casual fan that goes with you to games, and they like the team, they can name players, but they just don't interact with the other competitions. Let us know. Give us ask them. Why not? Why are you not catching on to this competition? We understand with Leagues Cup, there's boycotts with the Open Cup. There's also just, I think last year it was a novelty. This year people are like, we've seen it. And I wonder how long this competition can last. As somebody that has enjoyed the competition, I do find this year I'm interacting not as willing as I was last year. Last year I was all gung ho for this. This year it's been kind of more of a, yeah, we have seen this, and we've seen us face Liga MX teams a million times at this point, and it's
Right.
starting to,
The
uh,
allure.
yeah, the lure of the competition is not as there as much. I feel
Mhm.
like this year, and I wonder if next year you even see even more decline of fans, or if they are able to shake it up with the new format next year of like, hey, guess what? We're not doing the 3 teams in a group. We're doing 4 teams, and it's going to be this, and we're going to have it where you can actually watch these games. Um, they're not all at 7:30. Like that type of stuff I think needs to get fixed, and I think it could help, you know, uh, this competition last a little longer.
Yep.
Okay. You can reach us at Stateside Show on all of our social medias for that. And statesideShow@gmail.com for longer form emails. Next week we'll be talking about the let's see, round of 16 that's taking place now. The weekend is the quarterfinals. So we'll be back Monday to preview the semifinals and the final and kind of start gearing back into MLS, which starts back up on the 24th. We are only less than 2 weeks away from MLS already starting back up again. So we're getting there. There's a lot of teams that are knocked out, just sitting around, not doing anything. That's why these episodes, I was going to say, are shorter right now, but we stretched that one out.
Mhm.
This could have been 30 minutes, could have been an email. And
I don't think they'd have liked that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. Could you
Oh,
imagine, like, you go onto the Spotify thing and I just
it's like,
say,
check your
there's like
email.
yeah, check your email. We said what we want to say about
Right.
this. Okay. Thank you all for watching and listening along. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can like and subscribe to us here on the YouTube channel. Oh yeah, right. Real quick before we go,
Blah.
I wanted to say this, and I forgot to write this down. U.S. Women gold medal champions. Emma Hayes has turned this team around. We are back. U.S.
We're
Women
so
top
back.
of the world. She did an amazing job. It just goes to show how much coaching can matter and can affect going into this. We were kind of down on the team going into this, and we're like, well, she's just now getting into the team, and how much can you really? No, she goes out there, wins a gold medal, and these players played for her and did exactly what they needed to do and bounce back. Also, it helps that she kind of turned over some of the older members of the roster too, so that way, it wasn't as much tired legs out there, I guess. But U.S. women win. We're back on top. Looking forward to uh, seeing how this all goes. It also sounds like the men are going to have an interim manager for the September friendlies, and there's also talks with
It's gonna be
Pochettino,
us. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
which
we're
you
holding.
were really in favor of, right?
Yeah, I like Poach. I really do. I think he's been in bad situations at times where he's not really fit, but he's kind of that pedigree manager that's out there that can coach. It's just that there's sometimes situations, and when he was coaching at PSG, PSG is a strong team in their league, but I think struggles with the fact that Barcelona, Man City, and all of them do exist because they spend more money and they've been more successful for longer stretches of time. So I think PSG, I don't know, I really do. I think that he would be a great fit. I think players like him, and I think that's pretty important. And I think he's strict enough. I think that that's something that the U.S. needs is more of a disciplined coach. And then on the U.S. women's national team side, I was just going to make a joke about like the him and Hayes moving on from all the aging players, man. You start to feel really nostalgic about certain things, and then they come in here and they just start ripping things up, burying things underground like boats and stuff like that, lands that have rivers and stuff in them. Oh, that's the wrong podcast, but yeah, no, it's just it was needed. Change is always needed, Jordan. Change is always accepted because at the end of the day, it's going to make you better. And I think that's what the U.S. women's national team struggled with, was letting those pieces go. And now that they're gone, the younger players are succeeding and flying high.
Now we're done. All right, you can follow us at Stateside Show on all of our social media, statesideShow@gmail.com for long form feedback. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time when we talk about the Leagues Cup quarterfinals and round of 16.